79 years old, President Biden's health and stamina were under the microscope even before he contracted COVID. Now, as he isolates in the White House, more eyes than ever are on the leader of the free world to see how he is handling it. Joining us for more on all of this and what the fallout might be, former Trump 2020 Director of Press Communications, Erin Perrine, and former Biden campaign surrogate, Kevin Wallen. Good to see you both.
Hey, John, good to see you.
So, Kevin, let's start with you. So the president appears to be doing well, but the diagnosis does again drive home the fact that he is 79 years old. And he is, in some ways, according to his medical records, in frail health or declining health. And in the eyes of many Democrats, is beyond the age that he should run again. What do you think?
Well, John, I'm hopeful that the president's condition, as we saw in this latest report from his doctor, he is improving. He is a spry 79-year-old. I was just with him 2 weeks ago on the South Lawn for the 4th of July celebrations. He worked the rope line for 3 hours in the heat. And obviously he just came back from the Middle East in that trip where he kept a really tight schedule. So I think the American people will be the judge of the president's stamina in the next 800 days out from the 2024 election.
Right, but what do you think?
I supported the president in the primary. I'm a Delaware guy. I love the president. I'd love to see him run for re-election.
All right. Well, some people on the Democratic side, Erin, don't think he should run again. One of them is Clinton's former transportation secretary, Robert Reich, who in an op-ed in The Guardian this week said, as a 76-year-old, myself, let me say, Joe Biden is too old to run again. I'm sure the president is experiencing some diminution in the memory department. I know I am. Joe, please don't run. We're hearing more and more of this.
Well, Democrats are starting to say the quiet part out loud, and this has always been a concern for Biden. You saw it during the campaign cycle, and you're seeing it now even more as president. It undermines his effectiveness when people continue to ask about his age, his stamina, his health. What became gaffes, or were people alluding to, oh, he just made a misstep, or it was him stuttering, is now a problem continuously. Every time the president steps up, the White House comms team is always having to clean it up. So on the Democrat side, whether or not they want to try to put up somebody to run against a sitting president and try to take out an incumbent, that's up to them. On the Republican side, we've got plenty of people to run who can easily defeat Biden, especially with his abysmal approval ratings.
You know, critics and even Democrats who supported him in the 2020 election are now pointing to things that Erin was alluding to. And happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you so much. What a treat.
Gaffes that he makes in speeches, as he appeared to in Somerset, Massachusetts the other day when he talked about oil slicks and cancer. Listen here.
That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer, and why for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
You know, he has had several non-melanoma cancers removed from his skin by Mohs surgery, but most dermatologists will tell you, and I've had a few taken off as well, sure, they're not a result of oil slicks. They're a result of being out in the sun for too long. Some people said maybe it was COVID brain fog, or maybe it's just a mental decline.
Well, and again, the American people will be the judge of that. I think to Erin's point, you know, this president is known for many things, and he's known for gaffes, going back to when he was in the U.S. Senate for 40 years from Delaware. So that's nothing new with this president. Obviously, you have a press shop similar to the Trump years with Erin there, where you have to clean up things that the president has said. That is a constant in the White House communications office.
Not me.
So the team has a big job in front of them, obviously, with this president, and we'll see what 2024 brings.
So a lot of names are being kicked around in terms of who might replace him should he decide not to run or the party convince him to not run. Let's put some of those up on the screen so you can look. And they're all much younger than this president is. Kamala Harris, 57 years old. Amy Klobuchar is the oldest at 62. Pete Buttigieg, a spry 40 years old. Gavin Newsom, 54. J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, 57. Andy Beshear from Kentucky, 44. Gretchen Whitmer, she's 50 years old. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who currently does not qualify to be president, but will turn the magic age of 35 on October 13th, 2024, and therefore could stand for election. Can any of them beat the Republican candidate?
I don't see any star in that lineup.
Even though we don't know who the Republican
right.
It's true.
We could have any Republican, but I don't see a star in that lineup anywhere. You have Gavin Newsom spending money on ads in Florida and Texas, trying to tell people to move to California from states where they have lower unemployment, and people are happier generally in Texas than they are in California. None of them overwhelm me. None of them say, oh, this is a movement. What 2024 is going to be is a change election, right? You are going to have to see somebody, either Biden step up and say, I can change this economy and I can can get this country on the right track, or a Republican that'll step in and say, I am the change this country needs. I don't think Biden is that change candidate, and none of those Democrats, Gretchen Whitmer, Pete Buttigieg, any of them are really overwhelmingly fantastic that they would be a stronger nominee to beat an incumbent president and beat any of the Republicans who could possibly run. Tim Scott, Mike Pompeo, Nikki Haley, Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis.
Leading candidates finishes off here, Kevin, are Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. The Hill, a new poll, Trump leads Biden and Sanders in a hypothetical 2024 matchup. So can any of these other people do it?
Well, and I think that the recent polling shows that Donald Trump is still leading the field, with Ron DeSantis a close second, but he still has over 50% of the vote. And indications are that he wants to run and announce before the midterms, which I say, yes, please announce, Donald Trump, that you're running for president again, because I think that would be a blockbuster for Democrats in the midterms.
We'll see what happens, but you notice he didn't answer the question, can any of them beat it?
That's right. That's right.
We'll see.
Kevin, Erin, good to see you, and again, happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.